could include the discussion of what's going on with, I think there's an argument either way. But my suggestion would be in terms of the Open Meetings Act as a general concept, it's usually more in favor of giving public the opportunity to weigh in on issues. I don't know if you want to bifurcate. I mean, as the mayor indicated that there would be agenda and non-agenda. I mean, you could always bifurcate public comment in that too and make that more specific. I mean, there's certainly that option. But it's been my experience with the Open Meeting Act and the opinions interpreting it that it usually tends to favor the ability to comment on public comment in general. I mean, obviously that can be limited, but okay. I don't know if that helps.
I believe that helps.
So our agenda has.
What is your question, Ms. Brown?
My statement. The agenda has 2 public comment sections on it. It has the first public comments is for agenda items only, and then the last public comment doesn't specify. So what you're saying is, what are you saying?
Well, what I heard him say.
Attorney Harkness.
No, if you have a question, direct it to the chair.
I would like Attorney Harkness to answer, please.
Okay. Well, I think he's already answered, which is he sees both sides of it. Now, if you would be willing to say that this has nothing to do with Chief Kipp, then I'd have no objection. Short of that, are there any further public comments?
Well, point of information, I do want to clarify, Attorney Harkness, I did speak to you about this exact issue today because I wanted to make sure that we had to clarify what the personnel issue was before public comment because I knew this exact situation was going to occur. So, does the personnel issue have to do with the chief and acting manager or not? And if so, we need to make sure we specify that. That way the public has an opportunity to comment on it.
The clerk and I had a conversation about this when we were formulating the agenda because we weren't precisely sure at the time that the agenda was created what action, if any, was going to be taken by council. So our decision was to leave it as personnel issue because, quite frankly, we didn't know. It's my understanding that there will be a discussion about the acting manager position tonight.
So if the item on the agenda is discussion action on personnel matter, then during public comment, the public should have the opportunity to speak on that, correct?
On the personnel issue, yes.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Make sure you have 3 minutes.
Okay. I'm going to stick to my 3 minutes. Garrett Brown, 1016 South Superior Street. This is the same old, same old. We've seen this again. This is an instance of political theater. And what's concerning is that I know from personal experiences serving on the council that a lot of times the public is not privy to what council is privy to. And it's very easy to jump to conclusions because we're friends with people. This is one of the benefits of a small community.
So, Mr. Brown, I think the attorney has clarified that the agenda item deals with the personnel matter. Deals with the personnel matter.
Point of order, Mayor. It's a public comment.
It has personal matter, and it pertains to the acting city manager. So if you would like to speak and address that action item, that agenda item, please do so.
So the issue here really is that I believe Councilmember Brown, Mayor Pro Tem Brown, and I think that it's inappropriate, not inappropriate, but I think it shows a lack of critical engagement to jump to conclusions to say that what we've seen on false social media news sites.
Mr. Brown, are you going to address the agenda item?
I am addressing the agenda item.
I think you're addressing Councilmember Brown, and we're talking about a personnel action dealing with Chief Kipp. So if you want to address that, you may.
So what I'm saying is my concern is that more information is always a better thing. And I think that it's easy to stand up and support certain stances and employees and those kinds of things. But if you don't know all the information, I think that does a disservice to the community. So I would encourage council to do the right thing, to not succumb to basically which is a standard kind of mob kind of thing that happens. And so, you know, running out of time here. But yeah, I believe her. I think that there's a lot going on here, and I think that Albion's not going to move forward if we continue to jump to conclusions without full information. So that's the big thing. We have to have full information before we jump, no matter how close we are to someone, no matter what the working relationship is. We have to allow information and truthful information to come out. So that's my encouragement to the council this evening.
David Seeley, 310 Burr Oak Street, 5th Precinct. I rise just very quickly to comment on item 11.8, discussion approval of a personnel matter. I wish to convey my concern. Look, that I learned about this meeting this morning with very little, no advance notice. It's scheduled for a Friday night, which is highly unusual, and without some sort of discussion other than there was a personnel matter and then some sort of note that the council was going to go into closed session, but my understanding is that Chief Kipp has requested an open meeting, which I applaud him for. That being the case and that being my understanding, I think there's a lot of Albionites, perhaps like myself, that are highly disenfranchised from this process because of the short time duration, because of the unknown agenda. The agenda item has, how does one know as a citizen of Albion what is going to be discussed here unless one goes out and tries to find rumor? I would hope that we could be better than this. Thank you.
No applause, please.
Karen Yankee, 104 Irwin Avenue, 3rd Precinct. I was born and raised in Albion, and I have made Albion my home. I never thought at the age of 72 I would become politically active on behalf of my beloved city of Albion. I was seeing an Albion regrowth due to city management, Albion College, businesses, various committees, constituents, and groups all working together for the betterment of Albion. I then began to observe our 2017-2018 mayor and 3 members of the council working collectively to remove city manager Cheryl Mitchell and obstruct the rebirth of Albion. Well, here it is, March 1st, 2019. We're back in the news. Manager Mitchell is gone. Newly hired city manager Tanya Rufus is on unpaid leave. 3rd Precinct Councilperson Sonia Brown is up for recall. And Councilperson Sonia Brown and Jeanette Spicer called a special meeting tonight on short notice on a Friday, no less, when we should be with our families.
The gallery will be silent. Or
The common denominator is in plain sight. So I ask the citizens of Albion, what are you going to do individually and or together to move Albion forward? Thank you.
Before we have any further comment, I will again remind the folks sitting in the gallery to refrain from making comments, refrain from applause, respect the speakers. Are there any further comments this evening? Okay. Okay. Next item is closed session. The city attorney requests a closed session under the Opens Meeting Act to consider material exempt from discussion or disclosure by state or federal statute. Is there a motion? Is it support?
Support.
Please read the roll.
Councilmember Clark. Reed.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Brown.
Yes.
Lawler.
Yes.
Iser. Yes. Williamson.
Yes.
And Mayor Atchison.
Yes. We're adjourned. Call this open session back to order. Ms. Domingo, would you read the roll?
Councilmember Clark. Here. Reed. Here. Brown.
Here.
Lawler.
Here.
Spicer.
Here.
Williamson.
Here.
And Mayor Atchison.
Here.
Okay. Items for individual discussion. Discussion approval of personnel matter. Is there a motion? Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. I make a motion that we appoint Jill Domingo as acting city manager effective immediately.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. On February 22nd, 2019, I had a conversation with a law enforcement officer regarding the process to address allegations made to me by an anonymous source. On that same day, Friday, February 22nd, I submitted a criminal complaint that was signed, dated, and notarized, and later submitted to a law enforcement agency, alleging that Albion Department of Public Safety Chief Kip unlawfully recovered electronic communications from the cell phone confiscated from the city manager, and that he shared the electronic communications with other individuals. Given the serious nature of the complaint, and being that council only employs the city manager and a city attorney, said motion has been made.
Okay. City Attorney Hartness, would you please clarify whether or not there is anything that indicates that the messages, the information that was retrieved from a city-issued phone, if there is anything that indicates that that was illegal?
So, I'm going to preface this with Attorney Chelsea Ditz is our labor attorney who's also present, and she will probably want to weigh in here because I think before tonight I would have been able to give a more definitive answer for the following reason. In Michigan, there is a statute known as the Internet Privacy Protection Act, which admittedly Ms. Ditz is more familiar with than I am, but the broad strokes of that particular statute, which I have since looked at, essentially provides that information that is contained within whether it's a public entity or private entity, but if it's a device owned by the employer or paid for by the employer, the information on that device is subject to review by the employer. Similarly, information that is transmitted over a network that is owned or paid for by the employer is also subject to review. That being said, we were provided some information tonight that has added what I'll describe as a unique twist to how the messages were acquired. That, quite frankly, neither myself nor Ms. Ditz, I don't think we know the answer to it tonight because it's that unique. And so, I can provide you with the information contained in that statute, but quite frankly, I need a little bit of time to do a little digging before I can firm up that answer.
Okay, so 2 points of clarification. Was it a city-issued phone?
It's my understanding that was a city-owned phone paid for by the city.
And
I would have, but that's not first-hand information I have. That is information I've acquired from city staff.
And was the Wi-Fi that was provided with it, the internet connection, whatever, was that or was it not paid for by the city?
My assumption is, and this is an assumption, that to the extent it was used in City Hall, it would be city paid for Wi-Fi.
And the laptop per the contract provides Wi-Fi hotspot that the city pays for. I mean, that is in the contract, but you can look at your convenience.
The fact that the laptop has a Wi-Fi hotspot on it? That,
Phone.
that
Phone.
I admit,
Okay. What, the electronic
I have-
devices that are issued under the contract to the city manager did include a Wi-Fi hotspot. At least that's in accordance with the contract, which is, I'm assuming that's what we issued.
I honestly do not know the technical answer to that question. I have no idea what kind of laptop they had or phone. I've never seen them, I've never used them, so I honestly don't have an answer to that question.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and speak, if that's okay, Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely.
I am not in support of changing the current leadership structure at the city by any means, or removing Chief Kip. I see Ms. Domingo actually shaking her head no, that she would not like to do that. So I would like to not do that. And then I would like to also say how convenient it is that we're here on a Friday night, the same week that a recall petition was submitted and a hearing set for a sitting council member. And said recall petition references the messages that have been inadvertently released to the public. So I want to say how convenient that we would be here to attack the character of a 20-year servant to the Albion community by removing him from serving in a capacity that he has served in. Could you please call order?
Gallery will remain silent or leave.
So, how dare we continue the charade that has been going on at City Hall for 2.5 years now by attacking this public official who has served in this capacity more than once, I think twice before now. I think I had mentioned almost up to a year in length. And who, if you know in the community, if you've been involved in the community, as many of us are, is revered and respected, why it is that we would be here tonight doing that.
Council?
I think the...
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I know that everyone wants me to shut up, but
No.
I do get to talk. I think this is quite convenient, and I think it's retaliation. I think this is retribution. You can have a signed statement notarized today, tomorrow, next week that you made a criminal complaint. Still doesn't mean it's criminal. And I just think this is inappropriate and a waste of city time tonight. We ripped everybody in the gallery, everybody at this table away from their families, their friends, their activities to attack a public official this evening. There's nothing less than an attack on a public official this evening. And I just think that's wrong, and it doesn't serve the city's best interest.
Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you. I just want to say it is certainly nothing personal. It is business. I have supported Chief Kip in the past, as he will very well tell you, so it's not personal. It's just that a precedent has been set. It is the council's job to decide tonight here whether or not Chief Kip should only remain as acting city manager, not with regard to his position as chief, and pending the results of an investigation. It's not the council's job to discuss the merits of the actual allegations. That's not why we're here. And I think that, we as a council, we need to be smart in our discussions because we don't want to create any unnecessary legal liabilities for the city. Mayor Pro Tem Brown brought her concerns to me, and therefore we brought them to council so that we as a group, a collective body, could make a decision that's in the best interest of the city. And for also to allow this investigation to get to the bottom of the allegations. That is why we're here, and that is my statement for tonight. Thank you.
So a point of clarification for both the city attorney and the labor attorney, whoever is the best suited to answer it. What is the legal liability, you raised a good point, or risk to the city if action is taken against this individual based on I don't know what? So if action is taken against Chief Kip, does that raise the risk, liability of the city?
This council voted, I think, last week to change the acting city manager from Tom Mead to Chief Kipp. This council can take action to change who the acting city manager is. However, I want to be clear, it cannot be action taken as an adverse action in regards to allegations, things of that nature. That is where there would be a potential liability. If the city council chooses to change who the acting city manager is, you have that right, as you did, like I said, last week. I believe it was Thursday.
But just to make sure I understand, if the decision to reassign those duties are based on an allegation, does that raise the risk of liability for a lawsuit to the city?
You're putting me in a very compromised situation to express my defense, potentially, in front of the potential complainant. I don't know that that's appropriate, quite frankly. I mean, I would have a defense. If you would like me to, I mean, would you like me to share that? I would not advise against sharing what my defense would be in that situation, quite frankly.
Again, I just caution us.
Just a second, Ms. Spicer. Councilmember Brown, you had a question?
I had a statement.
Go ahead and make your statement.
Thank you. So I just wanted to say that what I heard from Attorney Ditz is that council has the right, just as we did last week, to appoint individual as acting city manager. I also wanted to say that, again, I'm going to read the date. February 22nd is the date. I filed the complaint. The recall language was not submitted until Monday. So you can't retaliate when you take action prior to. There's no retaliation. I also want to say, I didn't go out and solicit this information. The individual came to me. So, being that the allegation, no, it includes action that could potentially be unlawful. But that's not for council to decide. So what's before us tonight is the motion to appoint Ms. Domingo as acting manager.
Councilmember Williamson.
Okay, so what I just heard is there's an anonymous allegation from someone in the community that Mr. Kipp has done something improprietous or illegal. You, Precinct Number 3, Councilwoman Brown, has filed some sort of criminal complaint on behalf of this person, and none of the council knows what that complaint is, correct? Like we have, no one has sent me the memo if there is one, and as far as I'm concerned, at the last training, we act as a body and should share all information with everyone on the council. So currently, we don't have all the information to even substantiate the claims that Precinct 3 Councilmember Brown is bringing up. I yield.
City Attorney Dietz, please.
I just want to make a point of clarification. I said that the council has the right to appoint as an acting city manager whomever they choose. You've chosen to appoint Tom Mead, and then you chose to appoint Scott Kipp. You can make a choice to appoint anyone you choose to appoint. However, the basis of that should not be upon an unsubstantiated complaint. I just want to be clear that that cannot be you can make whatever decision you want. I think that compromises a defense.
Okay. And I would make one last comment, and that is when we appointed Chief Kipp, that was at the request and initiation of Mr. Mead. It was his desire because of workload and other things, and Chief Kipp agreed to do that. To the best of my knowledge, Chief Kipp has not requested that he be relieved of that and have the duties reassigned. And I do believe that we're here talking about this because of some anonymous complaint.
Can a motion be made now? Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So, if, I wanted to ask the question, if Chip has been, is there something that we don't know that is showing that he has done something illegal? And if that is not substantiated at this time, then I guess my next question is, because we already had one person in place that was overwhelmed, and now we're just gonna put somebody else in place, is whatever was talked about or whatever is going to be brought forward, is it gonna cause for him to be in place until he can do the investigation that he needs to do and you do the investigation that you need to do, and for us to come back and discuss it again? Is it that big of a deal where it can't be tabled until we know more information as a whole, as the whole council?
And in reality, I believe if there was a criminal complaint filed, it would be a law enforcement investigation.
But I'm going to echo what Ms. Ditz, can you elaborate on this? Because we're not supposed to make the decision based on whether there's an allegation, right? Like, because we keep, when the motion was presented, it was followed up with a criminal complaint. So we've already complicated that, correct?
I said you can make a decision based on whatever you want to make the decision, but the defense would be compromised if your rationale for the decision is based on something that is a complaint that has not yet to be substantiated. That's all I stated. So, once again, you're compromising me, you're tying my hands in terms of speaking about a potential defense in front of a potential complainant. But if, for example, Chief Kip came to you and said, I no longer want to be acting city manager, you could appoint a new city manager, acting city manager. If, for example, there had not been a complaint and you determine it might be better that someone else has more time in their schedule to do that, you could do that as well. You have a right to appoint an acting city manager. This is not an interim city manager. There's not a contract in place. I would encourage that when we get to the stage of an interim city manager, you look at going to an outside entity so they have the time and ability to focus 100% on the city management job while you do, if you decide to do a long-term search. So I think you compromise our defense if you make a decision based on information that is a complaint without substantiation. Okay. You can do what you want to do. You are a council. You have the right to, based on the individuals who've elected you. You do compromise the city's defense. I just want to be clear.
Okay. Is there any council member that has anything else to say? If not, we'll call the question. Okay, so the motion before, if you'd restate your motion.
I make a motion that we appoint Joe Domingo as acting city manager effective immediately.
Okay, is there a second?
There's our second.
Okay, so if you would read the roll call. So if we vote yes, then we are voting to relieve the duties from Chief Kip and reassign them to the city clerk, Ms. Domingo. So please read the roll.
Councilmember Clark?
No.
Reed?
No.
Brown?
Yes.
Lawler?
Yes.
Spicer?
Yes.
Williamson?
No.
And Mayor Atchison?
No. Okay. The motion fails. Okay. Silence. Okay, put your name. Silence. Okay. Are there any public comments? If there are public comments, step forward. Please state your name and address. Seeing no public, no, it appears there is public comment. Please refrain from making comments in the gallery or leave.
Fred Alexander, 208 Watson, Precinct 5. We have a paper here from the mayor Michigan Freedom of Information Act, which basically says nothing should be hidden. We have on our paper special agenda, which indicates something is hidden. My question is, what is the real agenda, and why wasn't it put here instead of putting special agenda? Also, I have a suggestion for you, Mr. Mayor, that rather than interrupt someone when they are up publicly.
You will be removed if you are not silent. Continue, sir.
Rather than interrupt someone when they are up speaking, it would be better, since it takes a roundabout way to get to the point, it would be better to let them have their 3 minutes uninterrupted, and then if their 3 minutes are incorrect, you can correct them after that. But if you interrupt them, say for example, you take one of their minutes, they could literally stay up another minute because they have a right to 3 minutes.
Are there any further public comments?
Elizabeth Craig, 802 Austin Ave. I just want to say, I just think this is such a disgrace. What's going on? You guys are so into stabbing each other in the back, and the city is just torn apart. It's just going downhill. Everybody in our surrounding cities are flourishing except Albion, because y'all so busy worried about each other's personal lives. And if Officer Kip didn't expose what was on that phone, it wouldn't have none of us would have saw it on Facebook from Jamie Jones. Nobody would have never saw that. So, and I'm sure Jamie and John Face didn't come in here and get that phone and put all that information on Facebook. Concentrate on what we need to concentrate on in Albion instead of people's personal business. This is ridiculous. You are rude, very rude, and you need to get yourself together as a mayor. You're supposed to be a representative of this city. You are, by far, I've been here all of my life. I've never seen nothing like it. I've never seen nothing like it. And if the man did something wrong, if he had it, how come he didn't put it out there? He gave that information to somebody else to put it out there to make, so they could look bad, which they look real bad doing it. Whether it was illegal or not, that was terrible. That was terrible, and that was to stab somebody in the back. Now, if somebody got a hold of your phone and put something on Facebook, you wouldn't like it, or social media. You wouldn't like that at all. Y'all need to get it together. It's terrible.
Are there any other public comments? Okay. There's no city manager report this evening. Mayor and council member comments. Do any council members have comments this evening? Okay.
Oh, I do.
Councilmember Williamson.
Just because I got reminded of it during the public comment, I think there should be an expectation of the citizens of Albion and the employees and staff and the council to understand. We went through this really great training that several council members were adamant that we have very quickly in the year, and it's required of us to have. Nothing that I say to a fellow council member via electronic device, email, written communication, none of that is considered personal communication at any point in time, especially if it happens to be on a city-owned and paid-for device. We have no right to privacy of those communications unless there's some very, I think Chelsea just probably has a 20-page list of what is excluded, but there is some exclusions. So I just want to reiterate that we don't have a right to privacy up here. We are publicly elected officials. We have to do our work in the light of day, and it is an expectation that when the citizens ask for information that we should provide it. And I think that none of us up here and none of us in the public should be upset when that information does become public. Thank you.
Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. So I just quickly want to say there's a difference between retrieving information and recovering information. So just, There is a difference. One is legal and one is questionably illegal. So, thank you.
And my final comments are public information that deals with government business between city officials, elected officials, that is public information. Okay? There are certain categories where it's sensitive and should not be shared. Okay? That includes posting things on social media, media interviews. Everybody is welcome to have private opinions, and they can express that as their own personal private opinions. But if someone expresses an opinion, makes a statement on social media, magazine interview, media interview, what have you, and presents themselves as a city employee, that leads people to believe that they are speaking on behalf of the city, and that's inappropriate because the city manager speaks for the city. If an elected official includes their title and represents that from the city's perspective, or makes comments using their title as a council member, as the mayor, they're speaking for the city. And that is generally the mayor's responsibility to do that. Okay. Having said that, is there a motion to adjourn? Is it seconded?
Second.
All those in favor of adjourn say aye. Aye. Adjourn.